Welcome all. It's Thursday again and time for a tiny tale. For today's tale, I have a memory from my past. I am a bookworm and was lovingly called so by all my friends. This tale resonates with every bookworm. Come along to this short trip down my memory lane then. Bibliophile Diaries, held hostage by a book. As a bibliophile, I've had my share of bookworm moments. But tell me, have you ever felt like you were being held hostage by a book? Well, it doesn't count as being held against your will, because we bibliophiles readily agree to be held prisoner by a book. We were on this very short trip to visit a certain temple in my native village. We arrived the same morning and had to leave that night. That morning after our breakfast, I happened to wander into my uncle's room and found this book with no title page. It was quite old. The pages were torn badly. But it began with the first chapter, and I couldn't resist diving into the story. And guess what? I see my mother calling me for lunch. I looked at the time. It was noon already. I said to my mom, I'm almost halfway through this book. I waved the book at her. It was 900 and odd pages. I'll finish one more chapter and come for lunch, I said, and returned to reading the book. After a few moments, I realized I was being fed by my mom. I barely looked at her or what she was feeding me. I was witnessing something important in the book. It was a mystical story with lots of magic and magicians. I had never read such a book until that day. So I barely remember my mother wiping my mouth clean and giving me some water to drink. I don't even remember drinking the water. I looked at the time and it was already 4 p.m. I had to finish this book at any cost because my uncle wouldn't let me take it along and I wasn't ready to let the story haunt me forever. So I went back into this prison where I was witnessing a war. I was left with very few pages to finish, and I looked at the time only to realize that it was almost time for me to get ready for the return journey. And guess what? The story didn't quite look like it was going to end soon. So many loose ends and so very few pages. I was so anxious to finish the book that my mother fed me again while I was reading the last few pages. That night, I slept like a baby on the bus because my eyes hurt so badly due to reading all day. But it was worth everything. Have you had a similar experience of being held hostage by a book? Those were the golden days, weren't they? We could visit any world, witness everything without having to move. Tell me, what are your bookworm moments? Comment it down. I would love to read all about it. See you next week with a new episode of Alienated in an Ancient Land.